Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Watering, we've talked about in the first segment for you and your plants. But again, Holly, if you don't have water, you got a dead garden. And with a dead garden, there's not much there. But Tree Diaper can really help you out with all of that.
Right. And your plants may have some comments about your watering methods. Maybe they're getting too much water.
You've made them that mad. They're gonna
start talking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Maybe you give them too much water, too little. Just take the guesswork out of this by using the Tree Diaper. Tree Diaper is a revolutionary watering system that stabilizes soil moisture by taking up excess water and slowly releases it when plants need it. The Tree Diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water, and it slowly releases the water over 3 weeks. No pipes, hoses, or electricity needed. Whether you're a first-time gardener or advanced, Tree Diaper will improve the way you water your plants. It's made in the USA. You can find all the sizes they have available at treediaper.com. Tree Diaper will keep your plants happy. That is treediaper.com.
Well, let's discuss, Holly, the four-letter word that many people don't like, and it's not that one. It's weeds. Well, it's a five-letter word. Weeds, W-E-E-D-S. And we all have them unless, we all have them to some degree.
Right.
Some many much more. Some have much more than others. Some don't care. They just plant and then they harvest what they can. Others are very meticulous about going in and removing every fiber of a weed that they possibly can do such in order to make their yard or their garden or their yard, for that matter, picture perfect and magazine cover presentable.
Right. It's definitely for many people, it's a never ending battle. And for some people, it's like, well, they go in strong, they make sure everything's weeded, they plant their plants, and then they're just like, okay, I'm going to live my life, and if the weeds happen, they happen. And there's no right or wrong way, whatever floats your boat. But with that being said, one thing that you can do for weeds is you can mulch them to suppress. And mulch is a blanket of
material.
But it's a it's a blanket solution for a lot of things, whether it be keeping the soil moist, maybe feeding your soil at some point once it breaks down, or in this case, suppressing weeds. And
some people prefer to spray their weeds, sometimes with a harsh chemical that contains glyphosate. Others may choose a more natural means, and natgreenproducts.com has such a product. Use coupon code WEEDS, W-E-E-D-S, at checkout and buy 3 1-gallon units of the horticultural grade vinegar weed killer and get the 4th one free. So you can do that. It does a top burn. It's not glyphosate where you touch it and it kills it, but they are non-selective. It's a non-selective spray, so it will kill your items, but does it in a much more humane way, I guess, less damaging to the environment.
Yeah, I would say so. So another thing is you can weed as you can, and that means like.
Well, when you say that, should we pull the weeds out or just take like a hand trowel or hoe and just knock them down? What are we doing here? What's the best method, or is there a right answer?
I would say, well, I'm going to talk about weeding as you can.
Okay.
So maybe you have a garden that you can split up into 4 sections, ideally, mentally to weed. And so you, instead of looking at it, okay, Saturday morning, before the heat of the day, I'm going to go out there and weed my garden, and then you feel overwhelmed, and Saturday comes, and you're like, I just want to sit here and sip my coffee and stare at, the trees.
Right.
Maybe instead you come home from work on, not Monday, because nobody wants to do anything after work on Monday. So you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to come home from work on Tuesday. I'm going to weed this quarter of the bed. Or maybe you work from home like many of us do now. And on your lunch break, you go out there and you weed this quarter of your garden, and then maybe you do that on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and then Saturday or whatever portion of the week, and then you don't have to do it for a couple more weeks because you've done such a good job weeding, and then you can do something else.
Well, and different weeds appear at different times during the year. Dandelions are more prevalent in the spring than any time else, and though they have great beneficial properties to the garden, people do not like them because they seed and they get everywhere. Well, fun little fact on this, there's over 250 varieties of dandelions in the world. They're almost the entire plant is edible. Some people question and some people get irritated by eating the stem from the flower to the plant, the base. But if you don't like dandelions in your yard or your garden for that matter, you might want to talk to everybody within a 5-mile radius of your property, because that's how far dandelion seeds can travel, reseed, and grow. So spraying them, whether using Nat Green products and killing them in the yard, or a harsh chemical or a 2,4-D, you're fighting a losing battle. It's like trying to keep birds out of your yard or out of the trees in your yard. It just doesn't work.
Right, and that's the thing, is that you have to do what you can realistically do, and weeds are going to exist. You do have other options, though. You want to make sure maybe you're trying to weed before the seeds form.
Right. Smaller the better.
Right. And then also consider, maybe a different method of gardening, whether it be raised beds, a straw bale method, containers, something that might be easier for you to control. Again, sometimes when you feel like you're fighting a constant battle and you're like, okay, I'm sick of growing in the ground. I just feel like all I'm dealing with is...
Which we got to that.
Right. I feel like all I'm dealing with is...
And we invested a good a bit of money and went all to raised beds and brought in good quality compost raised bed mix. Though we still have weeds, nothing to the capacity in which we had. And we are getting equal amount of produce out of the garden in about a quarter of the space by going raised beds. We still have weeds. We still fight the weeds, but it's much easier to weed a 4x8 or a 4x12 foot raised bed in a matter of 10 or 15 minutes with a garden fork, or a few seconds with a garden trowel whenever the seeds are small, rather than doing, I got to do this whole section in order for us to plant. So keep that in mind. And again, the smaller the weeds, the easier they are to harvest, to remove, the quicker you can do such. And we've all been there. We've all pulled weeds out that were taller than us, that took 2 people and a pair of gloves and to pull out a giant thistle or lamb's quarter or some other giant grass that we just never got to.
Right.
So we've all been there.
Yeah, definitely. It does happen. So you definitely want to consider, like Joy had mentioned, and I had mentioned, the raised beds. That was something that made a bit of a difference for us. Unfortunately, we still do deal with Creeping Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
And
you don't have to go, and we did this. You don't have to say, well, let's go to raised beds. Well, it's going to cost this much because we're going to put 19 beds in. You don't have to do 19 beds. You can do 2 or 3 this year, 2 or 3 next year. When the lumber prices drop down low, or you find free lumber, you can put another bed in that way. It doesn't have to be all, it's not like you're building a house where you have to have the house completely done before you can move in. You can do this in phases.
Right. And that is something that you definitely, can keep in mind. I know we like the straw bale.
Right. Straw bale gardening. You can still get the formulation for the conditioning process at balebuster.com to get that bale ready. And Holly, and with the constructing the raised beds, we've done it with traditional lumber and pallets. And the nice thing about building raised beds in phases, do you know what that is?
Building them in phases?
Yeah, doing a couple here and then waiting a while and doing a... You know what you did wrong in the first 2, and you don't have to you can fix it on the next 2 or 3.
That's kind of what we did. We built, was it 5?
Yeah, yes.
And then we
4
built
or 5.
Yeah, and then we built 3 the following year.
And we've done 2 pallet raised beds.
And then a door.
And a door. We took an old wooden door we found in the attic and cut it down. There is a video on how to do such on our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Upper right corner, put in door raised bed, and you will find how we constructed it and an update on how it's functioning. And spoiler, it's functioning quite well.
Yeah, it's cool.
Now, this is one of them old-fashioned hardwood doors. This is not the cheap stuff or the metal ones you get nowadays.
No, it's not like the plywood, whatever door. It's a solid wood door. Yeah. We rent in a very old, it was built in 1917, so what is it, 105 years old home. So
it may have been worth a lot of money. We don't know. We cut it up. We cut it up anyway. So
there's probably some like estate sale person like, what did you do?
That was $1,000.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out to be a really nice, expensive raised bed then.
Right. So yeah, it's a solid door, and I really like how it looks. I think it looks kind of whimsical and fun. So maybe if you find a door in your attic and you're not an estate dealer, you can.
And you can take, and when you build these raised beds, we did put cardboard down, but the cardboard has, some of these weeds are very strong. Weeds are going to overtake your garden if you allow them. They are much stronger genetically than your tomatoes, your peppers, your eggplants, your cucumbers. They are out to survive and choke out anything that's around them. That's just how it is. That's
right.
The way that the weeds have been designed. Because in nature, there's nothing that's bare. There's some kind of foliage or covering, and usually it's weeds or plants that would survive nowhere else, but it covers there in that poor soil, and you can't get anything to grow there but weeds.
Absolutely. You do want to keep that in mind that sometimes, again, weeds can feel like a never-ending battle, and you're not alone. So you can join our weed hater support group, and you can just tell your friends about our radio show.
Now, another thing that's a never-ending battle is those Japanese beetles, Holly. The weather has warmed up, and it's warming up in almost all portions of the country, but you're still going to have to deal with those various beetles, weevils, and borers. Yep, those Japanese beetles are ready to ruin your summer.
And what better way to prevent those pests from destroying your garden than by controlling them while they are larvae? Grub Gone is an easy-to-apply granular product that can spread on your turf to successfully control grub invaders developed by Phylum Bioproducts from a naturally occurring bacteria. Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT product that specifically targets only scarab pests. It is safe to use around bees and other beneficial insects.
If you already have those beetles flying around your yard, hey, Beetle Gone is the answer. It is an organic water dispersible powder that you can spray directly on your edible plants. You can find all this information out and a whole lot more at PhylumBioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. And you can save money on your purchase by using code GardenTalk10 at checkout to save 10% on your order.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.